In Wales, and Britain by large, we love a good horror story. The grislier the better. We're a morbid group on this small little island. This was enhanced in the 17 and 1800s as more and more people began to learn to read and write. Authors began to write fantastical tales of spectral entities, reanimated corpses, and things that go bump in the night. They spoke to something deep in us that played on our fears whilst also reminding us of bedtime stories told by our parents or grandparents. Usually these stories were told to us so that we'd hide under the bed sheets whilst our parents were given 5 minutes respite to knock back a bottle of wine. But these stories weren't just a method of keeping us out of the way, like those told to us that the ice cream truck played music when it was out of ice cream. They were darker, more tangible, and more unnerving. During the reign of the Tudors, a series of laws were passed that would forever change Wales. These were the Laws in Wales Acts of 1535 and 1542. They brought Wales under English law, stripping away much of its ancient legal system and replacing it with English courts and English judges. But laws written in London did not always reach the lonely valleys and mountain passes of rural Wales. And in the shadow of the mountains, people often dealt with things their own way. This is one such story. The year is 1541, and on a bitter winter's night, a young woman wanders alone along a winding woodland path in the Black Mountains. The wind howls through the trees like a living, breathing entity, screaming as it goes. Cold and starving, barely able to place one foot in front of the other, she stumbles forward through the darkness. Her breath crystallizes in the air, each exhale weaker than the last. Then, through the skeletal branches of the forest, she sees it. A flicker of warm orange light, a cottage window, her neighbor's home. Hope stirs within her. Slowly, painfully, she drags herself towards it. When she reaches the door, she raises a trembling hand and knocks several times. Eventually, the door creaks open. A woman stands in the doorway, wrapped in a linen nightshift, a candle trembling in her hand. The candlelight flickers across her face, and then she gasps. Standing before her is the young woman from the village, filthy, half frozen, eyes hollow with hunger, and banished. Through rasping breaths, she pleads, "Please, please help me. I'm starving. They would not sell me any food at the market." In Tudor Wales, accusations of witchcraft could destroy a life, and all it took was a whisper. The neighbor opens her mouth to speak, but before she can answer, a heavy hand falls upon her shoulder. Behind her stands her husband, a broad, bearded man, his eyes narrow. "We can't," he says quietly. "We can't be seen helping a witch." His voice grows harder. "They'll hang us both." He steps forward slightly, forcing the woman back. "You be off now," he says coldly. "There's a good girl." And the door closes. Slowly, softly, but firmly. For a moment, the young woman stands there in silence. Then the realization sets in. Tears freeze upon her cheeks. She screams at the door in rage and despair, before turning and stumbling back into the frozen night. By morning, The snow along the mountain path has settled into a pale, silent blanket, and lying there upon that path is the frozen body of the young woman. Despite the villagers ruling that she was a witch, the farmers cannot bring themselves to leave her to the crows. They dig a grave at the foot of the mountain and bury her there with a quiet Christian prayer. And so the story should have ended. But the mountains remember. The years pass, the decades roll into centuries, and whispers begin to spread across the lonely farms and scattered cottages beneath the mountains. Stories of something seen around sunset. A pale figure moving through the mist. Farmers begin waking up in the night to strange sounds. Whispering outside the shutters. Knocking at the doors. Claws or fingers scratching softly against the walls. When the doors are flung open, nothing is there, only wind and darkness. The old stories return. Stories of the Witch of the Black Mountains. For 200 years, the legend spreads from cottage to cottage and small town to small town. Until sometime in the late 1700s, the stories grew darker. The figure is given a new identity. The Revenant, or the Vampire of the Black Mountains. A tall figure cloaked in black, seen moving among the livestock at dusk. Always at sunset and always silent, always pale against the darkening hills. From a distance, the sheep appear to be sleeping peacefully in the fields, but when the farmers approach, the truth reveals itself. The animals are dead, drained entirely of blood, only a small puncture wound visible on the neck. Fear spreads quickly through the valleys. At last, the farmers gather together, as something must be done. One of the older men remembers a story his grandmother told him as a child, a warning never to wander near the hedgerow at the base of the mountain, because it was said that that was where the witch was buried. Lanterns are lit, tools are gathered, and as the sun begins to sink behind the mountains, the men set out. The hedgerow lies twisted and overgrown, untouched for generations. Their lantern light flickers across the tangled branches. Axes and shovels begin hacking through the thick brush. Then suddenly a shout. "Here! It's here!" The others rush forward. Before them lies a shallow depression in the earth. At its head stands a moss-covered stone. A grave. They begin to dig. The soil is damp and cold, and minutes pass. Then a dull thud. Metal striking wood. The coffin. One of the men prizes the lid open with the blade of his shovel, and they all brace themselves for the smell of rot, but it never comes. Instead, they recoil in horror. Inside the coffin lies a young woman, her skin pale, her features untouched by decay. She looks as though she simply fell asleep. "Burn her," one of the men whispers. The others hesitate. "For Christ's sake, burn her!" he shouts. "My grandmother told me this story when I was 6 years old. I'm 48 now. Look at her. She looks like she died this morning." One man pulls a flask from his waistcoat. Tentatively, he takes a swig before pouring the contents over the body. Another removes a candle from his lantern. For a moment, no one moves. Then he throws the candle into the grave. Flames roar to light, and from within the fire comes a shrill scream. The men flee into the darkness, falling over each other as they run. And after that night, the livestock killings stop, the sightings cease, and the Revenant of the Black Mountains is never seen again. But even today, the story is still told in the valleys beneath the mountains. Perhaps it's only folktale, a story meant to frighten the children into returning home before sunset. Or perhaps it's something darker, a story about fear, about cruelty, about what can happen when a desperate person knocks on your door and you turn them away. Well, that's all from us here at Dark Entertainment. We hope that you've enjoyed the episode. And if you have, please remember to hit the subscribe button, the bell icon for all notifications. But remember to give it a big thumbs up, as this will really help the channel grow. If you wish to contact me, you can drop a comment down below. I aim to answer all of them. Or you can find me on X or on Facebook. But if you've got a story that you would like me to tell, a suggestion for the channel, or a location for me to investigate, feel free to drop me an email at dark_entertainment@outlook.com. And remember, stay dark, stay creepy, and always laugh. Ta-ta!